Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DL Ignite. With me today, I've got Keira Smith, and we're going to be talking about solution-focused hypnotherapy.
Yes.
And we're going to dive in and find that there's no watches involved in
No.
today. So, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at my website, which is www.positivechangehypnotherapy.co.uk.
So, what is hypnotherapy? Because I need to ask that as the first question.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. There are so many different types of hypnotherapy, Tim. My stream of hypnotherapy is solution-focused hypnotherapy, as you said. And what this consists of is a blend of talk therapy and deep relaxation, which is what we traditionally think of when we think of hypnotherapy. And what I do is I help people who are looking to make manageable, meaningful life changes that they've been wanting to make for a long time, but they absolutely do not know where to start. And what solution-focused hypnotherapy does is it offers a completely different way of doing that, because unlike other talk therapies, it's solution-focused. So we're not going back and we're not talking about the past. We're talking about where they want to go and how they can get going in a small, manageable, positive way.
So this is not about sitting back and saying, when I was 5, I stole some sweets and my mum hit me and whatever. This is about thinking about the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. We educate the client on, so when they first come to me, that first appointment will be me getting a little bit of information from them. And I stress a little bit because we don't have to go into, like you were mentioning, the whole history of their life, which anybody like myself who's been through something traumatic, they'd really rather not talk about it generally, or they've got to the point where they've talked about it to lots of other people.
So many people, yeah.
And they're sick of it, so we get a little bit of information, but then the main point of that initial consultation is the education. So them learning about the brain and what's happening in the brain when we get stressed, when we relax, and me giving them a couple of tools to get them going on this journey. And it really doesn't matter what goal they're working towards. We can work towards, I've had people with extreme trauma, I've had people with workplace stress, people with confidence issues, sleep issues, career goals. A nice example of this is a lady that came to me this time last year, extreme workplace stress, suffered with terrible bullying in the workplace, got to the point where she didn't know what else to do. And she came to me because she couldn't sleep and her hair was falling out.
Right.
So that's how that was presenting itself in her. And we worked together for a couple of months. She had about 6 sessions. And by the end of it, she'd, in her words, found herself again and signed up to do an MA. She'd signed up for an MA. So that was really wonderful because she hadn't had to go back and talk about all the stuff that had upset her. We'd just concentrated on moving forward and her finding each next step in our sessions.
So the solution focused is about the solution as in the future.
Absolutely. And as you know, Tim, that future can change every day, what we want, what our goals are. And that is where solution-focused hypnotherapy works really well, because that really doesn't matter, because you're always just looking for that next, reassessing, looking for that next step. But it's certainly not something that clients need to come and see me for years and years and years. This could be 6 sessions and they've learned how to manage their own stress. They're further where they want to be or where they want to be. And then they've gathered those tools for themselves and off they go. They're on their own journey then. And of course they can always come back, but the essential thing is they've learned about themselves during that time and what they need and how to meet their own needs.
And the hypnotherapy bit. So
Yes.
Where does the watches and the look in the eyes bit come?
Yeah. It's completely different from anything. I include myself in this. Before I trained to do hypnotherapy, it really is simply a deep relaxation. So yes, we help sort of implant things into the subconscious, but essentially we are looking to relax the brain, because a relaxed brain works so much better than a stressed brain. So for instance, I've had people who I've been seeing and they've come into the session and they're vile, they're really awful, I'm going to be honest. And we've worked through the exercises that we work through in the talk therapy. We do the trance and they're a completely different person following that trance, because it simply is a relaxation. So they relax back in the chair, they close their eyes, and they listen to me. And during that time, the brain waves slow down, they relax, the body relaxes. And sometimes for some people who've come to see me, they've never been able to relax. They say this is a new sensation. And because I send them away with a relaxation to listen to, they've gone away with a tool that they can use at home to replicate that process for themselves.
And is this based on neuroscience or?
Yes, it is, Tim. It's 100% based on neuroscience. Thank you for bringing that up, because it is.
My notes down here.
Well, yes, excellent. It's 100% based on neuroscience, and not just neuroscience, current neuroscience. So as part of my obligation to my body that I belong to, I attend a certain amount of continued professional development courses, which are up to date, constantly getting updated. So the more and more we learn about the brain, the more and more I can pass on to my clients. And that's the wonderful bit, because they gather this information and that allows pennies to drop for them, because we don't give advice. We just get them doing these exercises. We talk to them, we ask them questions. The pennies drop for them. They suddenly realize, why am I doing that? That's not what I want to do. And I understand that when I do that, this happens in the brain. My anxiety rises and all these processes get going. So yeah, that's the wonderful thing that I love about it, is it's wholly rooted in science.
So tell us a little bit about the brain, because I know when we did the preparation call, you talked about the primitive brain and the new brain. So just talk us through that briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the two main areas we focus on, Tim. So the intellectual brain, here on the left at the front, that's the place where we are when we make great decisions, we forward plan, we step back and we get a bird's eye view of life. That's the intellectual brain. And that's where we want our clients to spend as much time as possible. When we're relaxed, we're there. We're in that part of the brain. When we have serotonin flowing in our brain because we're doing activities we enjoy, or we're in that part of the brain, the serotonin will get you into that part of the brain. The other part that we focus on is the primitive brain. So that's the fight flight brain, which is really useful if there's a fire or a child runs into the traffic. But it's really unhelpful day to day, because when we're in that primitive brain, the only emotions we can experience are anger, anxiety, and depression, because they keep us alive. They're survival emotions. However, they're not pleasant emotions to experience day to day. As you can imagine, it's an emergency and walking to work are two completely different things. But at any point, if our anxiety starts to rise, our brain thinks there's an emergency, so it puts us in that primitive brain. And of course, at that point, that's when we don't make good decisions. We make snap decisions. We go for quick fixes. And this is where a lot of my clients have come to me, because they say, I'm drinking too much. I'm smoking too much. So I had a lady come to me last year. She was drinking a couple of bottles of wine a night, a few packs of cigarettes a week, and she felt dreadful. She was starting to cut herself off from people. She couldn't function socially properly anymore. And as we worked together, she started to get more into that intellectual brain, where she's able to make that choice. Do I want another glass of wine? The key thing was, once she was in that intellectual brain more, she could start to identify the hot spots of the day when there were problem times. That's when I really want a cigarette. If I get home from work and I don't open a bottle of light wine straight away, if I wait until after dinner, I'll only end up having one glass. And so that intellectual brain is what helps us to work out, what do I need to do next to remove this barrier and move myself forward again, just that little bit closer to where I want to go.
And that's about also taking tiny steps, isn't it?
Yes, Tim, you're exactly right. And that's a really big thing for a lot of clients, is it lets them off the hook. You know, it so many times, lots of people, including myself, we want to achieve something and we feel we have to make that massive leap to get there. Somebody described it as we have to take a baseball bat to a problem, when actually what is so much more pleasant is to find those really small steps, those really manageable steps. So a client of mine who came to me because she was wanting to set up her own business, and we use a tool called the miracle question,
right,
which is just that. It's a shrinking down where they want to go next and finding that next tiny little step. And for her, that next step was tomorrow morning at 9 a.m, because I get them to really fill out the picture of when they're going to do this. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m, sitting at my desk, I'm going to open my laptop and I'm going to Google this particular thing that because that was getting her off the starting block with no added pressure. So immediately the brain is relaxed. It doesn't feel it's been instructed too much. And it opens the door, gives yourself permission to kind of, okay, I can manage that. You know, even if I'm feeling not brilliant, that's something I can manage to do.
Because we always look at people, don't we? And what we see is an expert, which is kind of like, if we're looking at 0 to 100.
Yeah.
And what we do is we see the expert at 100, and what we want to do is go from 0 to 100, but it's not possible. And what we need to do is go from 0 to 1.
100%, Tim. You are so right. You know, and it removes all that pressure and shame. And another thing that we really talk to our clients about, something that they find really useful, is the stress bucket.
Yes.
So we tell them about
the stress come on to the stress bucket.
Oh, sorry, I've leaked.
No, please go ahead. Stress bucket away.
And this, you literally can just imagine a bucket, as we would have chatted about before. Imagine a bucket in your head, and literally everything goes in there. And I don't just mean big things like trauma and grief. I mean negative thoughts. Negative thoughts are literally what stresses. So our thoughts are what stresses. So all of those negative thoughts get converted into anxiety.
Because actually negative thoughts are there to actually protect us, aren't they?
Well, this is it, because our brain naturally has a negative bias for, just as you said, Tim,
protection,
so that we don't go into dangerous situations. But of course, in this modern world, our brain is a bit confused about what is a dangerous situation, because, you know, especially when
I don't like heights, and I was in the Shard yesterday.
Yes.
And my brain is basically going, you're going to fall off the edge. It's the Shard. There's a big plate glass. I'm not going to fall off the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. There we go. Perfect illustration, because, you know, your brain's looking at it, and to your brain, that is ridiculous. You know, that's like, what are you doing, Tim?
Yeah.
You're gonna, absolutely. And that's the thing, in that what fills up everyone's stress bucket is so individual to all of us, because we all get stressed by completely different things, you know. And my clients find that really, really useful, because it immediately gives them an image to think about. All right, okay, my bucket's really full at the moment, and how can I limit what's going in there? What can I do? So if I was to tell them, it could be wrong, and then they follow my advice and it doesn't work, and then that creates shame or worry. Oh, I've done what Keira said, but it hasn't worked, and why isn't it work? And all of that goes in the bucket. So it's crazy how easily stuff piles into that bucket, and then we worry about the stuff that's in the bucket, and then more stuff goes in the bucket. So that's a really useful tool for people to describe what's happening to them. But linking to that, I also explain to them how the bucket gets emptied, and that's through sleep. And often when people come to me, sleep is an issue, which is why we give them the relaxation to sort of get them off the starting block of beginning to rest and relax.
Let's go back to the sleep bit.
Yeah, sure.
Before we went live, the first thing I said to you was, did you have a good sleep last night?
Yes.
Of which you did. And why is sleep so important?
Yeah, sleep is really important because when we sleep, anything that's in the stress bucket, so anything that's happened during the day, so say we've had an argument with somebody, or just a stressful day at work, or things have happened with your family, overnight, all those memories are getting moved from the primitive brain into the intellectual brain. So when we sleep, we have sleep cycles of 90 minutes, and the last 20% of that is our REM sleep. That's where we're dreaming and we're moving these memories over. Now, some people say, oh, I don't dream. Some people don't remember their dreams, but we do all dream.
Yep.
And when those memories are getting moved, we only got a certain amount of REM through the night. So if we're not sleeping very well, or we're not sleeping at all, as you can imagine, none of that stuff out the stress bucket is getting processed. However, the more that's in the stress bucket, the more difficult it is to sleep, because your brain thinks, don't go to sleep because you've got stuff to do.
We're talking to ourselves in our head, aren't we?
Absolutely. Those voices are going absolutely nuts. So I give my clients, all solution-focused hypnotherapists, give their clients a relaxation to listen to, which allows the brain to drop into trance. And trance is a state that we naturally drop into every 7 minutes. So that's when the staring out the window happens, and because our brain's trying to catch up. So give our clients the relaxation, they drop into trance, and it kind of replicates that REM sleep a little bit. And it starts to tell the brain, you're safe, you can relax, it's okay. And as they listen to it more and more, the brain gets more and more used to it, and they can start to relax more easily. When they hear the first sentence, the brain goes, oh, this is all right, we relax. So I've had people come to me who use the trance. Like, I had a chap come to me and he was having to take part in a wedding, which he was very stressed about. And he listened to it immediately prior to it, because it immediately allows the brain to relax, and we go into that intellectual part of the brain, and we start to feel more positive, we start to feel more energized. And then when we come to sleep at night, we can sleep a bit better, because we've had that little bit of rest, that little bit of relaxation. And that is available on my website, Tim, for anybody who wants to go on and start using that. Great time to listen is just as you're going to sleep.
So the recommendation usually isn't there, is to have a going to sleep process.
Yeah, sleep hygiene.
Yes, so which is getting away from white screens, not looking at your phone, not looking at but actually, at a particular time, your body says, right, I'm now going to go through this process of going to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very different for everyone. My husband has ADHD, so actually looking at his phone just before he goes to sleep is not necessarily a bad thing for him. It doesn't actually cause him a problem. So that's another thing that within our sessions we talk to people about, is what works for you. There's a huge amount. I had a client once who said to me, after a while, he said, it's all very well reading all these self-help books and being told to meditate and be mindful and da da da. He said, but if your brain's not in the right place to start with, you can't process that information properly, and you can't really make the most of it, or even sometimes not even act on it. So having something that having permission to go, everyone says you should do this, but it doesn't really work for me, actually. This is not right. That can be really, really useful to kind of figure out your own routines, because bedtimes are so different for everyone. The amount of sleep we all need is really different. And I think that's a really important thing for people to bear in mind, is that, figure out what's right for you, not what's right for everybody else. Because sometimes we can box tick with these sorts of things rather than actually sort of think, right, I'm going to try this. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. Just try something else. I don't have to persist with it.
Keira, so time is up, unfortunately. Remind people where they can, where your website is, so they can look at that stuff.
Sure, it's www.positivechangehypnotherapy.co.uk. Relaxation is available there. I work online as well as face-to-face, and I'm always up to have a chat to help people out more.
Excellent. And thank you so much for coming on and talking about solution-focused hypnotherapy.